Welcome to True Wellness with Dr. D, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live with vitality, balance, and purpose. I am Dr. D, and each week I'll bring you powerful tools, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you thrive in every area of your life. From health and wellness to mindset and navigating life's challenges, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of true well-being. Let's get started.
Hi.
Alrighty then. It looks like we went through multiple intros. I'm like, what is going on here? Am I looking at the right thing? And apparently I have just messed that up.
That's all right. We're just keeping it fresh.
It's called technology, and sometimes it doesn't work the way that it was designed. So I apologize, everyone. That shouldn't have been on there like that, but here we go. So welcome, everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas. And those of you who are currently celebrating Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah. And for all the other myriad of holidays that are taking place this time of year. So welcome, everyone. We're glad to hear you. There is a lot for us to talk about today. Give us a shout out in the chat box. Tell us hello so that we know that you are here and live and watching. I know there's lots for us to talk about. I mean, Carissa, today is an exciting day. We've got our workshop tonight, our New Year workshop, which I'm really excited about. I mean, in our house, we have our own set of, things that we do to prepare for the new year, from cleaning the house to saging to, setting our intentions, doing our vision boards. I shared last time we do all the different jars, and I'll share with that on New Year's Eve. I'll invite you all into my home for a little while to see what we're sitting and doing at our kitchen table for New Year's, because this is part of our family rituals for the holiday. But today is a great time for us to begin to reflect, right? I know it's been a crazy year for me. I'm working on so I always pick a word for the coming year. And, everyone, I think at this point knows my word for this year was visibility. And I've worked really hard on that visibility word. And now that means I've got to keep continuing all of that as we go in. And I'm thinking about what is my word for the new year going to be? And I don't know, vulnerability is the one that keeps popping up. So I don't know. Have you come up with a word?
I haven't, but I'm definitely going to ponder on that. Usually this time of year, New Year's is right here. And it's a time where we all, including myself, we all make those big promises to ourselves about how this year will be different. But if I'm honest, right, how often those resolutions feel so exciting at first, and then they sometimes can lead us feeling defeated, a few weeks later, a few months later. And I'm always inquiring to myself, like, why does this happen? Right? Yeah. It's typically, for myself included, not because I'm lacking motivation or willpower. It's because sometimes resolutions come from like what I think I should do. Right? What I think I should change rather than like having. So that's what I'm doing this year, is my point that I'm getting to, is having a deeper understanding of what truly matters to me. And then looking at what's actually holding me back.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Because you know what? I mean, the statistic is, more than 80% of New Year's resolutions fail,
Mhm.
right? And they're usually like done and out come February, so they not only do they fail, but they're even short-lived. And we all like, I think we all enter that period of resolutions with excitement, like we're going to do this different. It's going to be this, it's going to be, yeah. And then we end up disappointed. I mean, those of you who are watching, have you ever been disappointed with any of your resolutions, right? And I think it's an opportunity for us to really begin to examine, like you said, where is that coming from, right? Is it a should? Is my resolution a should? Because when it's a should, it doesn't last, right? It certainly doesn't last. What's, I think it's important to get to what's really important to you. I didn't mean to use important twice in that sentence, but what's really important to you? Like what matters? Because oftentimes the shoulds don't matter. And the question to ask ourselves is, okay, if we're so involved in the should, like weight loss is a big one that comes up this time of year. And by the way, you guys, we have a phenomenal program that is coming up, but weight loss is a big should. And when we step into the weight loss journey with, I should lose weight, and there's nothing else behind that, it falls off, right? Because we can white knuckle things for a certain period of time, but unless there's something bigger behind it that's backing it, that needs to be there to make a difference. And so, I always want to invite people to dig deeper. Like, okay, is that a should? And maybe it is important, right? Like we do know there are consequences of carrying around excess weight. But if our goal is just because we should, then where's that going to lead?
Yeah. Even you just saying it, right? Like in the energy in my body of saying I should do something, for me anyway, the resistance comes right there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like getting to a place of clarity.
Yeah.
Like setting any goal, whether it's saving money, losing weight, I mean, work advancements, whatever people are going for.
Yeah.
I feel like if you set these without addressing the emotional patterns, the limiting beliefs, the old habits,
yes,
that's when we keep hitting the roadblock.
Yes.
And then it just feels so easy to give up. And then we're just left being like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Or I lack motivation, or I lack discipline. When really you don't lack any of those things. It's just the things that are playing in the background that are happening for us. So what if this year could be different?
Yeah, I love that. Katie says, maybe we should change it to resolution, from resolution to revolution.
Ooh, I like that, Katie.
I love that. But I mean, Carissa, just to build on what you're saying, it's so true, because it is, once we fall into that space where we're not going where we want to go or as fast as we want to go, we sort of, as human nature, we move into this spiraling vortex, right? So as humans, we are innately designed to want to protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're always on that mission for survival. So as things start to feel uncomfortable, right, we begin to push away more and more and more from what that thing is. But even though, say, weight loss, for example, we're pushing back on that weight loss because it's like, oh, I give up, I quit, I can never lose weight. Weight never works out for me. I'm always on this constant yo-yo. As we push back from that, then we end up not just in a space momentarily, we're like, oh, we don't care, it doesn't matter, I can't do this or whatever. But then that flips over to like that self-berating, which then impacts our self-esteem, lowers our self-esteem, and then brings us right back here. And so we're going around and around in circles like a cat chasing its tail, versus actually saying, well, wait a second, what's the underlying thing here, right? And I think that's the big thing. The authenticity piece or the vulnerability piece is really big. So, I'm kind of processing this as we're going along, because this is really interesting. So what's occurring to me right now is the thing about vulnerability. It's not just about being vulnerable with others, right, that we love and care about, or, just standing up to be who we truly are and being ourselves, it is also a vulnerability with ourselves, right? Because if you start to think about, and I'm just going to play on weight loss here because we're kind of down that path and it's easy, but if you start to think about the reasons why we don't lose weight, sometimes people will say, oh, well, like, I know that I need to do X, Y, and Z, but oh, I fell off track, right? And then it's easy sometimes to not recognize how many times we're doing that. And then to be like, oh, this isn't working for me. But then we haven't gone back and really been vulnerable with ourselves to look at, okay, well, where am I not being responsible for what it is that I say that I want, right? Where, not just where, but the other question is why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is it that weight continues to be an issue for me? What is underlying that needs to be resolved? Are there traumas that need to be resolved? Is weight a protection that's there? I mean, gosh, for so many people, we all have traumas in our lives, right? Good, bad, ugly, big, small, whatever. We all have some level of traumas in our life. And when we look at things like the question of, well, why am I holding on to this weight? For some people, weight is a protection. And so, like, they'll lose weight and then they'll gain that weight back because they'll realize, oh my gosh, I lost weight. Now I'm getting more attention. And then they become fearful of that attention and that sets them back. Or maybe for some people, it's like it's almost hard to believe that they can get to the place where they can take the weight off. So as they take weight off and they start to see that, it conflicts with that underlying belief of who they see themselves as and what they see as possible for themselves. So it's like coming up against this reality. And as human beings in that survival mode, when there is a disconnect between what we seem to be experiencing, right, and what our belief is about it, it's not safe, right? It makes us feel uncomfortable. It's that cognitive dissonance. And so we've got to start to really get vulnerable with ourselves and be like, okay, well, where is this showing up for me? Why is this showing up for me, right? We'll have people who, we have had clients in the past who are looking for that quick fix, right? And they'll come into our program looking for a quick fix and they'll drop 20 pounds in 40 days or what have you. And then we find out they've kind of, instead of taking lifestyle habits and making them concrete for themselves, they shift back into old patterns. And then they get frustrated with, oh my gosh, well, I lost weight, but now I'm gaining the weight back. But they're stuck in these old patterns. And you guys, it's not bad. It's not wrong. It's human nature, right? Our brain operates on these patterns. And for a while, it's uncomfortable when we're creating new pathways in our brain, when we're creating new habits, when we're creating new structures. It's so easy to fall back to the old one because it's, that road has been so well tread. But if we're not really vulnerable with ourselves, if we're not asking ourselves that why, like, okay, well, why am I falling back into this pattern? Where did this pattern begin? We might not find ourselves getting the results that we're looking for. And that, I mean, I know that's a key thing that we always address with people, but I think it's always an unpeeling of the onion, right? Katie's like, my brain just exploded. Yeah, I mean, this is important stuff, Katie. We're looking at, what is human nature. So, I have been working on some stuff with one of my coaches and mentors, and, he asked me a question, right? So my thing is always being about having a big impact on people. And he kind of said, okay, well, what if your impact is 10 times that? And as I sat through the thought process, I was like, well, I can't figure this out. I can't make any of this work. This doesn't make sense. There's no way to get there. And for me and you guys, I do a lot of work, personal growth, personal development. Peeling that onion is like I'm always peeling the darn onion, right? I have a 2-hour meeting every week where my focus is just on peeling my onion, so to speak. But I started to realize, like, holy crap. So even though I've done all of this work, it was like I could see, like, damn, there's like this other layer. There's this other layer underneath, all that stuff about self-worth and who I can be and who I can impact and what difference does it really make. And let's not forget time, because time always comes up. I'm always working on time, right? Time and money. Anybody else always working on time and money? I'm always working on time and money, just like everybody else. And I started to see, like, oh gosh, right? Like, there's always something new to work on. There's always another level of vulnerability and authenticity and more levels of why. So I don't know, Carissa, what are you hearing?
No, I mean, I totally agree with you that, understand what's been holding us back, right? There's the emotional eating, the self-sabotage, the lack of time. And we typically will always like start off strong, right? And then, like you said, we get into these patterns, and not because we want to go back into those patterns, but because they serve us a purpose for protection, like we just said also. And, as uncomfortable as they are, they're still comfortable. And, all these things are such common struggles that derail our progress. So being able to constantly showing up for yourself and being vulnerable, because I don't believe it's just enough to be like, yeah, I do that. Yep, I self-sabotage, right? Because that's great, but there's probably also a level of judgment we're giving ourselves when we say that. Because if we didn't give ourselves that judgment, we probably wouldn't keep going back to it. And everyone's, excuse me, always talking about being accountable to ourselves. And we think just, admitting it is accountability. However, it's not, because you got to go a little bit deeper. You got to uncover the underlying patterns that keep you stuck and, working with someone to move past them. And you got to do the work.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, right? It's like we want things, we want the results, we want it to be comfortable, we want to be easy. But the truth is, right, when we're truly making change, it's never comfortable. No. Like, we've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable and finding the joy in the discomfort. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Right? Like,
yes.
Find the joy in the discomfort, because that's when we know we're onto something. Right? That's when we know we're going to make some big change, when we are getting into that zone of discomfort. We're like, oh, this is a little uncomfortable. There's been plenty of times in, my own evolution as a human being where I've been like, oh my gosh, I don't want to think about that. Oh, I don't even want to face that. I don't want to look at that. And then it's like, oh, but you've got to turn around. You've got to kind of rip up that Band-Aid, rip off the Band-Aid and get into the muck, right? Get into the pus and the gore of it all in order to clean it all out so it can heal.
Because weight loss, to me, as you're talking, I'm thinking like weight loss is so surface. Right? It's really, we have to start thinking like, how do I want to feel in my body? Do I want to be strong? Do I want to be confident? Do I want to be energetic? Do I want to be vibrant? Like, being clear about it, and then having support with someone to help you define what that looks like for you, because that weight loss actually connects to bigger goals in your life.
Yeah, it's so true. It's our, couple things. So number one, first of all, if you guys are not registered for the workshop tonight, you want to register. I should find the link and drop it in the.
Yes, because you're going to be going through all of this stuff.
We are going to be talking about this stuff because it's so important. So that's number one. And then, number two, this is, I'm sorry, I'm working on finding the link. So I am multitasking here. And, as human beings, even though we think we can multitask,
but you're actually going to talk about
good at it.
What's holding you back? You know what I mean? Like,
we're going to talk about all these things. We're going to clear out all the crapola, right? Because there's lots of crapola that we have, and focusing on one area. But, this is the stuff when we, especially in terms of our body and weight loss, our next retreat, the one that we're hosting in March. And at some point we'll put some more posts into our social media. It's kind of, we slowed down a little bit because the holidays and the workshops and stuff that we have coming. But our next retreat is really, the theme is reconnection, right? It's reconnecting, because if we're not really listening, if we're not really being vulnerable with ourselves, being vulnerable with our body, being vulnerable, just allowing that space to get into the truth, we don't move forward. Carissa, I think this makes me think, like, we can attest. We've had clients who have come through our practice who struggle with getting vulnerable and authentic with themselves. Right. And, sometimes they'll be like, oh, I'm not losing weight. And then we're like, okay, well, let's take a look at their food diary. And they're like, well, I'm eating everything that's great. And then you start to look at the food diary and you're like, I see some things are off. And we'll have a conversation. You guys, we're all human. It's not like a judgment or a make wrong or anything like that. But it's like, we've got to be really honest with ourselves. And we'll find a lot of times that people aren't even writing down, like, if we're like, okay, we've got to get to the nitty gritty. We got to figure out what it is. Is there something metabolically going on that we need to, impact? Because that plays a big role, right? We want to make sure that we've got the metabolic pathways playing the way they're supposed to be playing. But if we're not 100% authentic and honest in what we're putting into, say, our journals, then that has an impact, right? And then so you can't be frustrated with not getting a result if you're not being truly honest with yourself. And like Carissa said before too, it's not about just being truly honest with yourself and making yourself wrong. It's about being curious, right? Curious is the biggest word here, curious. Because that curiosity reveals to us things that we may not have ever seen before. And you guys have heard me say this over and over again. When there's things that are happening back here, I mean, I can't see what my hand is doing, right? I don't know what's going on back there. It's not till I bring it to the front and I actually look at it that I can do something about it. And so that's where that vulnerability comes. And a lot of times, some of those behavior patterns, some of those thought patterns, they want to stay hidden for our survival, right? Because it's uncomfortable. But we've got to bring it up here if we're actually going to make an impact with it, if it's actually going to make a difference. Does that make sense?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said be curious, because that's how you can get this to come here. It's about being curious, because this here is probably the biggest part of the judgment that we have of ourselves. And it's also the biggest part that needs acceptance and validation.
Yeah.
And we can't really do that if we're just like, oh my God, yeah, I do it. Or, yep, I talk negatively about myself. Or, yep, I ate a whole cake and, it is what it is. But when you become curious about something and you're able to accept and validate that part of you, that's actually just a protective mechanism, that's where things start to shift.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really just want to highlight too, like, the workshop is going to be about helping you align your body with your mind and your emotions so that the changes just aren't temporary.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. They're part of a lasting transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we can white knuckle anything. We can pretend anything. We could positive psychology the heck out of anything. But it's not till we get underneath that stuff that true change occurs. And it's so funny. It's like we live in this quick fix world where, like, we want immediate gratification, immediate information. I always say to people, like, many people come into our practice and what are they doing in terms of their health and nutrition? They're educating themselves on Instagram. And I'm like, that's not the place to educate yourself. Sure, maybe they'll get some quick tidbits and that stuff is really interesting, maybe, right? But first of all, knowledge is powerless without action. So if you're not taking action on your knowledge, it doesn't matter what you know.
It actually makes you feel crazy.
Yeah, it does make you feel crazy.
It makes you feel crazy when you have all that knowledge and you're not taking action. Someone said to me the best line, it was commit or be committed. And I was like, ooh, that is good, because that is how you can feel if you're just kind of white knuckling it or half in, half out and have this knowledge and you're still kind of doing the same behaviors.
Yeah. And I want to say, you guys, like, the truth is we're all humans. So the importance of building community, the importance of having a place to come to and to share and to work through stuff is really important.
Yeah.
Because as we start to get more authentic, more transparent, more vulnerable with ourselves, we're going to need to kind of work through stuff. That's who we are as human beings. We can't just keep it all in here and work through it up in our heads. You know, that's one of the powers of journaling, is it's like, you know, you're getting it out of your head. That's the beauty of it. So yeah, so there's a lot for us to work through, and I know we're up at the top of the hour, but so my word for 2025 is going to be vulnerability. Carissa is going to give us a word next week. How about all of you? What's your word for 2025? Choose a word that you're going to focus on for 2025. And let's start there. And I hope that I see everyone tonight in our workshop. I put the workshop link in our message, but it is going to be transformational, eye-opening. So please be sure that you are in attendance. Carissa, what do you want to leave them with today for our Lunch and Learn Live?
Well, I just want to say, don't let another year go by without stepping into the version of yourself that's waiting to be seen. Right? There's that version that wants to be seen too. So don't let that go by. Like, make feeling at home in your body, and in your life, instead of just feeling like you're always missing something, or you always want to do something, or you always need to grab at something else. Just truly feel at home in your body.
Yeah. I love that. And guys, remember, like, what are the top reasons that resolutions fail? I mean, number one, if we have unrealistic goals, they fail. If we have lack of clarity around those goals, they can fail. If there's no emotional connection, if you're not getting to that why, that true why underneath. If it's all or nothing thinking, if we're like, okay, I need to be perfect, and the moment we slip up, then we quit. Like, we're not going to get through, or if we don't plan for obstacles. So just know that, I mean, it's the funny thing, right? It's the minute you set a goal, or you set an intention, or you even sign up to do a new program or something, it's like, by default, the universe is like, I'm going to make sure you really got this. And then it throws like all obstacles in your way. We see it all the time. I call it Murphy's Law, right? So be prepared for those things and just know that it's all part of the journey. So embrace it. And I don't know, Carissa, I am really excited about 2025. I think us as a practice, we've come through some huge shifts in the last couple of years. I mean, we have completed our first year being 100% virtual. I've gone through a lot of trauma a year and a half ago with Lorraine's passing. There's been so much, and I'm excited for the new year and everything that this new year is going to bring, and for all the lives that are here, and all of you who are watching our Lunch and Learn Live, and who are part of our community, and people who will be part of our community. I'm really excited about all of it.
Me too. I feel the climate changing too. People are recognizing different things. People are wanting to go deeper. It's not so surface level anymore. And just, I'm having different conversations with clients, with people, with family, with friends. Like, it is very exciting. I'm excited for 2025 too.
Yeah, me too. All right, everyone. We'll see you next year for Lunch and Learn Live next Monday. And hopefully I'll see all of you this evening for our New Year, New You workshop. Be sure to be there. If you can't be there live, we will send out the replay only if you are registered. So you do have to be registered to receive the replay. All right, everyone. I'll see you next year.
Bye.
Bye.